Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm Roisentul, your host, and today we have a pretty interesting interview. We are going to talk to Matt Stafford. He's the CEO and managing partner of Build, Grow, Scale, and an equity owner of some in-house e-commerce brands. He has knowledge and expertise which has enabled him to mentor thousands of store owners through paid commerce groups and live events. In fact, prior to COVID-19, BGS, Build, Grow, Scale, hosted the largest yearly e-commerce focused event, in the US, BGS Live. Before talking to him, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. And we are going to discuss this a lot with Matt, but we all know by now that customer acquisition costs are going up. There's lack of tracking, attribution is probably driving you nuts, and audience sizes are getting smaller after the iOS 14 update in 2021. If that wasn't enough, there are other factors such as the recession and supply chain issues making it harder than ever to grow your e-commerce brand. That's why we need to understand that it's really important to level up the marketing and design a solid strategy as what used to work doesn't anymore. Here at BSR Digital, we have been helping countless e-commerce brands that wanted to scale their business to a next level through paid ads and email marketing for over a decade. To learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, and you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Matt here with me. Hey, Matt, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. It's my pleasure, man. So why don't you start by telling the audience more about you and your story?
Okay, yeah, so I've always been very entrepreneurial focused. In fact, when I turned 18 and graduated, I bought the business from the guy that I was working for on like a payment plan. And so that was my first introduction into business and kind of the what I would say the physical brick and mortar type entrepreneur. And I did that, ended up developing or building a commercial concrete business, owning a couple of brick and mortar locations for salons. And through doing that, I was introduced into digital marketing by having to learn SEO and pay-per-click in order to get people into our salons. And so I realized, wow, this internet thing's pretty cool. And I would like to be able to do that rather than work outside all day and be dependent on the weather and a lot of other variables that affected our business, being in the concrete world. And so I did that. I switched over slowly by marketing online, driving more leads to our stores, and then learning how to sell things online. And as I got better at selling things, I set a goal to be 100% online within this 5-year time frame. And it was almost to the month when I set that I ended up being 100% online. It sold the concrete business, both of the salons, and focused on online e-commerce, essentially.
Wow, that's awesome. Matt, I know you know a lot about conversion rate optimization and many other things. But there's a lot going on in the space, in the world, right? But in this space, there's a lot going on. And I know you have a brilliant community and a brilliant team as well. So you talk to these people pretty often. What do you think that's going on through an entrepreneur's or through an e-commerce owner mind nowadays?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I actually think that's more important than all the other stuff that's going on. I feel like the more that I deal with the business owners on a daily basis, they're actually the bottleneck in their business, more so than the economy and all the other stuff. If you buy into all that, then it absolutely affects how you produce and what you create, how you communicate everything. And so I've found that in our community, the more that I coach the business owner themselves, the better their business does. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with conversion or a customer journey on their site and all of those other things. which is what we're really, really good at. In fact, the more that we've said no to, no, we don't run paid media, but we know someone who's really good at it, we'll recommend them. All we worry about is when someone lands on the website to when they give you money. And the more we focus on that, the better we got at it. And the things that we said no. Again, going back to originally, they think that's their problem. So I always say the presenting problem is not typically the root of the problem. And so they think all these other things are the factors, but when you talk to them, a lot of times it's how they're processing it. And when you can clear that up, they seem to go forward much quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's definitely tough. I talk to many e-commerce owners, way less than those, I mean, than you do, because you talk to a lot of them. But I know that a lot of things are going on. And what we focus on in the agency, it happens kind of the same of what happens to you. It's like, we know we should focus on improving the the results on the ad account or on the email side of things, but then there are many things going on at the business level that have to, I mean, that are not related to what's going on here. So
Yes.
what what could you say to those owners? What can they do to improve? Because of course they're not doing this on purpose, and the context many times is putting them in this situation and they don't know how to get out of there.
Yeah. So, and that's another great question. What I typically try to do, and I'm very logical, and so I try to figure out a way to simplify these things that are creating the problems. And so my phrase is, it's a blessing that we have as humans. We actually get to think about what we think. And so what I've found in my own business, and I'm always trying new things, but spending about 30 minutes a day and just thinking about how I think and what I think about. Because what that does is it raises our awareness. It takes us out of autopilot and puts us back in the driver's seat. Most of the time, we're very reactionary to things that are happening for us. And that's part of our conditioning. And so when we take that time intentionally to actually think about what we're thinking, we can go, oh, yeah, that doesn't actually serve me or the business, or oh, that doesn't actually communicate what I actually wanted to tell that team member. And so, if they don't have clear expectations, because you're not clear about what you want or clear about your communication, they're only going to be able to execute in a manner that's around what you do. And so typically I always say, like, how come when the business owner gets coaching, the entire business performs better? Because usually they're the bottleneck of the business, not intentionally. I mean, we all are for our own business. I am for mine, you are for yours. And so having that person that you can that you can communicate with, have accountability, have radical honesty about what you're thinking, clears up a lot of that really quickly.
Yeah, 100%. So although there are many things going on outside, like the e-commerce store, what are some of the main issues that you see going on in the store itself? Like I don't think the common mistakes, but the common, yeah.
Yeah, I would say a lot of times people's sites, they're too busy adding things to the site. And what we found, so we have a part of our company where we are the data analytics split testing for large brands. And so the owners are bringing us ideas all the time. And a lot of times we've tested them or different things, but they tend to hear it's a good idea, and or a lot of store owners hear it's a good idea and go put it on their store. Well, after a while, they have all these things on their store that are good ideas in themselves, but they're maybe not implemented very well for their audience, or they have multiple things going on. And so what ends up happening is their site becomes very convoluted, and it actually creates what we call cognitive load. So people are actually tired of going through your site without even realizing why it's not easy and what's going on. So when your customer journey forces them to go through all these things to figure out what they want or to find what they're looking for, that creates a loss in conversion in a lot bigger ways than people realize. Many of the stores that we go on, that we partner with, the biggest wins are always in the beginning because you're cleaning up the site, making it convert better. And I would say about 60 to 70% of those wins are actually removing things from the site that clarify the message for the 80-20, which is 20% of your customers spend 80% of the money. And so when you focus on them, your site can instantly become a lot more profitable, and it speaks to the people that are spending money with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know who said this originally, but I once read, perfect is not when there's nothing else to add, but it's when there's nothing else to remove.
Yeah, yeah, I
Right?
would agree with that. It many times. Well, in fact, I'll segue this into one of the tests that we've learned, or through our own, this is a damaging admission, but we used to test, and when we would find a winning thing, we'd go, oh, great, it won. Now let's go find something else to test and find another win. And what we realized by accident is take that same winning element and put it somewhere else on the page, because everybody doesn't read your page the exact same way. Some people consume video, some people consume infographics, some people read every word. And so when we started taking the tests that won and figuring out how many different ways we could implement that on the page, so it wasn't actually adding more, it was more of the same. And it continued to make the page convert higher and higher. And then when we would find, eventually it would have a diminishing return, then we would move on to other elements. And we ended up basically cleaning up pages because the winning element was displayed 2 or 3 different times rather than a whole bunch of different things.
That's interesting. Today, we are definitely seeing like the acquisition, the customer acquisition is a little bit tougher because some things are cheaper. We see across the board CPMs, or cost per thousand impressions, being cheaper, but the audiences are not as relevant as before. So we need to filter them through the message and not through the audiences as before, especially if we are talking about social paid ads. And the website needs to do, I mean, I don't know if you agree, of course, the website needs to do a better job than before, but also it needs to not only convert more, but I don't know, maybe increase the AOV, try to help increase the LTV through different, I don't know if you call them techniques but have you seen something like that going on?
Yeah, 100%. So for sure, we've been in this, and we've been teaching and working in this industry now going a little over 7 years. And I was, a store owner myself for 3 or 4 years before that. So really over the last 10 years, it was really easy to be profitable on the front end and make a really good living just selling products on the front end and being lazy and not having a good back end to your business. That is no longer even an option. It doesn't feel like. So with the cost of ads and with the competition and other people getting really good at being able to have a solid back end, which is your email marketing, your SMS, your customer service, how you deliver your packages, etc., that whole experience needs to be optimized, because what's happening is you want to be able to break even and acquire as many customers as possible on the front end. And in order to do that, you need to know your numbers, because on the back end, when you have that working very well, that gives you the ability to then be very profitable. But in order to break even on the front end, you want to break even at the highest available AOV. And so raising your AOV $5 or $10 matters a lot. As you know, we don't run media, but we know that when we can do that, the store owner is then able to reach a whole new audience of buyers because they have more money to spend. And so it puts them, it feels like, and maybe you can confirm or deny this, it feels like it's a better quality of customers that they're dealing with, that know, like, and trust their brand and come back and buy again and again when their AOV goes up.
Yeah, definitely. I was reading by in the beginning of the year, I think it was in January, a report put together by Shopify. I don't know how accurate it was or it wasn't, but they have a lot of information, right? And they
Yeah.
said that there are more people than before, like more switchers than before, meaning more people willing to switch brands just because of a lower price. Like people value different things during a recession than in
Yeah.
other times. So now, what could you tell a brand that it's probably more important than before to have dialed in besides the conversion rate and the site in general?
Yeah, so conversion rate is I mean, obviously it's important, but it's one metric of many. And so I think that what they need to work on more than anything is repeat purchases. So the customer coming back again and again. And the only way that they're going to do that is one, connecting with them on a personal level, which means people like to buy from people that they know, like, and trust. We've all heard that. And so how do you get them to know, like, and trust you? One is spend time with you. So that would be, we've noticed copy on your product descriptions and other areas of the site becoming more and more important. When we go through and do a copy update on the product descriptions, many times that boosts the conversion a lot. And it's shocking to me to see how many people have very, very simple product descriptions that are all based off of features and no benefit. Features don't sell, features just inform, benefits sell. And so people want to know, like, how it feels, what it how they're going to look, etc., all these things. And so when your copy switches to that, we found that that alone helps conversion a lot and repeat customer rate. So we believe that the language matters enough that they connect with the brand and then want to come back again and again because they go, oh, this is my people, this is somebody that understands me.
Yeah, I love that line. I mean, features don't sell, and it's true. I mean, in fact, the feature doesn't sell the transformation story. It doesn't tell the transformation story that a good copy good, and many store owners don't even think about getting a copywriter to write a product page unless they are experienced, right? They
Yeah.
all they care about, I guess, right, is to write a good title, the price, and that's it, right? The
Yeah.
size chart.
Many times we change the titles too, because people, unfortunately, they think like, oh, this big brand's doing this, I'm gonna make it like that. Well, the problem with that is a lot of times that brand has a specific audience or they own their traffic. And so they get away with a lot of things that a normal store owner of a smaller level can't get away with. And so when your languaging and your communication becomes one-to-one rather than one-to-many, so many people have this feeling inside like, oh, if it's just one-to-one, they're going to realize I'm just a small operation and they won't want to do business with me. Many times that's the exact opposite. Those are the people that get very good at communicating with their customers, that get a huge repeat, huge repeat customer base that just comes back and buys again and again and again. We have several of them in our group that do a really great job, and thankfully they share what's working for them or what they're trying. And so we all get to benefit from that. But yeah, that messaging matters a lot, especially when people are cutting back their spending. They're going to still spend it with the people that they know, like, and trust. It's the bigger brands that they've not connected with that are going to hurt.
Okay. For those listening or watching, I guess they might be wondering, or I could, if I were them. You mentioned, for example, that the conversion rate is not the only metric they should look at. You mentioned the customer returning rate. So what are other metrics that they should look at, and what are some of the expected values? I know it varies from brand to brand, but is it okay to see a 5% customer returning rate, or is it okay to see a 0.1 conversion rate? What are some of the benchmarks, more or less, they can give them
Yeah,
so they can go and say, oh, this is okay, or this is not okay?
yeah, so I could do that. I could give you a bunch of benchmarks. One, your email and SMS should be bringing in anywhere from 20 to 25% of your revenue. If it's not, then you know that there's some work to be done there. Conversion rate really varies based off of your average order value. So we would say in that $150 range, 2% would be really good. 1.5% would be fair. Below that, you definitely have some work to do. $100 average order value. We have 2 or 3 of those stores in our partner program. They're around between 5 and 6%. Which is really good. They've been doing it for several years with us. I would say more average is the 4.5 to 5. That $60 to $70 range. A minimum of 4. It can be as high as 6 or 7% during certain seasons. But again, that the only way you're going to get there is one, you're getting the 20 to 25% from your email and SMS. You're communicating with your audience very well. Your repeat customer rate, we have a couple stores that are upwards of 80+%. And to me, that's a red flag. It means you're not scaling quick enough. If you have an 80% repeat purchase rate, then it's really time to dig into your numbers, know what your lifetime value is, and then figure out what your margin is in that, and then go out there and start acquiring customers as fast as possible, where you're adding more to that mix. So I think a very healthy repeat customer rate, meaning that you're buying enough media and you're growing, is in that 25 to 30% range, 25 to 35% range. If it's above that, it probably means you could buy more media. And then also, if it's below that, then it means you're probably not talking to your customers enough. We've found that too. When the repeat customer rate is low, a lot of times it's just because the owner is afraid to be emailing them very often. And they don't realize that the more you email, the more they'll come back and buy. They're afraid of their list shrinking. But we're like, hey, if they don't want to hear from you, figure out how to segment your audience, talk to the ones that want to hear from you more regularly. And, we teach these different things inside of our membership so that you can generate more revenue from it that way. Another metric that I would say is typically you never want more than 50% drop off in any one category. So if you have a 10% add to cart, you would want a 5% proceed to checkout and a 2.5% conversion rate. That would be fair. That's good. Below that, you definitely have some work to do. And so the other metric that I could say is if you have a 4% conversion rate on desktop, you're typically going to convert about 2% on mobile. So desktop is usually about double what mobile is. And so if those metrics aren't true, then you have a problem in one area or the other. And that's regardless, even if your conversion rate is low, that will tell you oh, okay, we have some work to do on our desktop. Let's do that and let's fix that. But right now, because about 80% of traffic is mobile, we tell people to really focus on the mobile experience, and have desktop be a secondary, unless it's like an older demographic or it's a type of product where they need the desktop to explain everything. And if that's where more of their sales get done, then obviously you would shift focus there.
That's very valuable. Everyone listening or watching, save this segment. I mean, the whole interview, but this segment in particular will give you a lot of golden nuggets to look into your e-commerce. I have a follow-up question on one thing you said. You mentioned the 50% drop off, I mean, between the partial events. Does that apply to the visits to add to carts as well, or that's probably way lower?
Yeah, that's way lower. So
Okay.
we feel like 10% is going to be a very good sustainable, but 10% plus, um, then you have the ability to create a very good brand, a good business. If you struggle to get to 10% add to cart, then either your ads are way off or you're sending a lot of people that aren't connecting with your brand. And at that point, you know that the website itself really it's not answering the questions that the person needs. Because in all reality, if you think about it, they found your site because they were looking for something that you sell. They clicked on an ad or they searched it, came to your site, and then literally couldn't find anything that they wanted. That means that a lot of times it's a clarity issue, or you just aren't offering things that people want to buy. And so you can't fall in love with your idea. You have to fall in love with what they vote for with their wallet.
Yeah. I know, I know for sure because I've been a part of it. That you have, as I say in the intro, a beautiful community, and you deliver a ton of value, a lot of advanced, not only tips but strategies and things to implement. But I know you also share a few, high level tips on social that are actually pretty helpful for people. Do you remember a few of those that you can mention here? Like, I don't know, for example, free shipping, how to make the most out of free
Yeah.
shipping if you offer it, and some other tips that you can give to the audience?
Yeah, and so there's a couple of things that we are very good at doing, that are just small psychological triggers that people don't even realize. So free shipping um tells that person that shipping doesn't cost anything. And that's actually not true. Free shipping means you're paying for the shipping. And so you as the store owner. And so what we say is we pay shipping, because then they realize, oh, okay, the store owner is taking care of it. It's not actually free. It costs something, but they're eating that cost. And that changes their perception of dealing with you, because now there's reciprocity and you've done something for them. They feel like, oh, this would be a good place to come back and do business with. So that's a one simple example, and it works. Like we monitor data very quickly, and that language gives you a conversion boost. Another one is on your order forms. So this is where the transaction takes place. And so changing the language or the wording inside of your form fields matters a lot. We've tested that over and over and over, and you can go to our YouTube channel or different things, and we give all kinds of, like you said, free advice, because essentially the reason why we do that is we want you to get enough value that you see the changes, things are working better, you're making more money, and then you're like, man, we would love to see what they share for paid information. But back to that form field, where it says email, that's very standard, and it's basically default language. When you put in there email required for order confirmation, now what happens is they give you their best email. Order confirmation emails have a 80% plus open rate. So more than 80% of them are open. It's the highest open rate of any email that you'll ever send. And so by doing that, there's less errors, and they typically give you their very best email. So we noticed when we started doing that, our abandoned recovery went up, our form field errors went down, all of that, because now you're getting their main email and they're being very specific about it.
It's pretty cool. Actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it goes back to an influence principle. I read the book Influence by Robert Cialdini or something like that.
Yeah.
And like when he says that when you justify a request, getting ahead in line or whatever,
Yeah.
people are more likely to actually say yes. So this
Yeah,
is
100%. That's the example that I use too, is when someone says, hey, can I cut in line? And they don't give you a reason, you'd be like, no, no. But if they go, hey, do you mind if I cut in line? Because I'm running late to go pick up my son. Oh, well, sure. Like, and you'll give that person, I think it's over 90% of people will let them cut. And all it is, and I think when they don't give a reason, it's less than 30%. So there's almost a triple amount of like goodwill just by giving a reason. It doesn't even have to make sense. In fact, I think the example he uses just says, because I'm running late. Well, that doesn't matter to anyone other than that person, but still over 90% of people let them. And so by us giving that reason why we require it, they tend to give you, that leeway.
awesome. Talking about books, last year, for everyone listening, for you as well, we put together a list of books recommended by guests on the show in 2022,
Yeah.
and we are doing
Yeah.
the same this year. Do you have any, by any chance, to recommend to the audience?
Yeah, so I have two that I'll recommend that I think are really good, and they both work with each other. And to be honest, we always promote them inside of our community because of the benefit that the people get from it. One is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and it really isn't anything that's going to be earth-shattering new. It's really talking about creating a set of small daily habits that over time create change and results, compared to the slight edge is always working. It's either working in our favor, or we have a slight edge bad habit that's always working. It's always pulling us down. And so by becoming aware of our daily habits and adjusting some of them to be beneficial over time, it feels like, you don't see the daily progress, because if you're go to the gym today, you're not going to instantly be in better shape. But if you go to the gym, for the next 90 days, you're going to be in better shape. And that's a slight edge habit of that you no longer look at the consequence for today, but you look at the long-term consequence of your decision. And your results 90 days, a year from now are much, much better when you start looking at things that way rather than what feels good in the moment.
It is said that it's better to focus and commit to actions rather than to goals, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that's exactly how I've structured is I don't really set a set of goals. I know what I want to achieve, and then I break that down into what would I have to do every day in order for that achievement to become a foregone conclusion. And then that becomes my process for my day. Because if you think about it, when you set a goal that you're trying to achieve, the entire time that you're trying to achieve it, you're actually in lack because you haven't hit it yet. And so that mentality actually slows down your progress. But if you have a set of daily goals that will get you to a certain outcome every single day, as long as you hit your daily habits, then you win. You're not in lack anymore. You know that, like, if I just do this day after day after day, like, I'm good. And so you actually get to be happy on the journey instead of only when you achieve whatever outcome you're trying to do. The other one the other book that I think is a really, really good is The 5-second Rule by Mel Robbins. And we're all very good at procrastinating or creating reasons why we don't take action immediately. And the 5-second rule really gets you off of that thinking of when you have an idea, and then all of a sudden, if you wait longer than 5 seconds, typically your brain is convinced you all the reasons why you shouldn't take action now, or why you shouldn't do that, or what the poor consequences are going to be, rather than just doing it. And so those two books together are a really powerful combination.
Right. It's funny. I was laughing when you were mentioning this book because it's funny how different authors propose different theories. I'm reading one. I just started, right? But I'm reading one named Think Again, right? Very well known as well. So it's like 5-second rule or think again. It's like, okay, what do we do, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
And
powerful.
yeah, and the thing is, the reason why the books are so applicable is because as humans, we all think and do things very, very similar. We tend to think like, oh, I'm the only one struggling with this, or oh, I'm the only one that deals with this problem. But the way our brains work is exactly why we all deal with the same issues, same problems. And so when you find a strategy that works for you, I always say that there's lots of different ways to fix an issue, but find the one that works for you, because not everybody, you don't need to have every tool in the toolbox, in the toolbox. Typically, you'll have one good tool that works in 80% of the 80% of the areas. That's the one that you need to master, because that's going to get you the most benefit. Instead of just trying to learn more and learn more and learn more, I say you need to do a little more and learn. Most of us know enough already to be very successful. Learning more is not what will create the success. It's doing more.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Matt, for being here. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for everyone listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform, make sure that you head on over to fitgrowthmachine.com, find the episode, and you will find the full show notes, including the books that Matt just mentioned, as well as many other valuable lessons he mentioned today. Matt, where can people go to learn more about you and Build, Grow, Scale?
Yeah, right. Our website is buildgrowscale.com. There's a bunch of free resources on there, and there's ways to get a hold of us or look at some of the services or even join our community. So everything's on buildgrowscale.com.
Awesome. Matt, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for being here in the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Thank you very much.